Welcome back to the Portimao circuit here in the Algarve for the first time ever for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. They've had one race this morning. And what has that race delivered? Well, it's delivered a very, very tight championship now with the margin between Antonio Giovinazzi, P1 in the championship, and Felix Rosenqvist, P2. That gap has really been narrowed to less than 8 points. The result this morning, well, Prema Power Team took the win with Jake Dennis taking a victory. Alexander Albon, who should have been on pole position for this race, took P2, and Felix Rosenqvist P3. Also for Prema Power Team. And it's Prema Power Team that really seemed to have unlocked the potential of this Portimao circuit. Now, the only running that has happened here has been in the two-day test that preceded this race weekend. There's the race order. Rosenqvist, then it's Nick Cassidy in for Prema Power Team this weekend. There's Lance Stroll, Jake Dennis, Antonio Giovinazzi, Gustavo Menezes, George Russell, Marcus Pommer, Dorian Boccolacci and Pietro Fittipaldi occupying the first 5 rows of the grid. Then we see Charles Leclerc, Callum Ilott and Ryan Tvita, Maximilian Günther, Mikkel Jensen, Sergio Sette Camara, Alexander Sims here with the new team, High-Tech GP, Santino Ferrucci, who gave us so much entertainment in race 1 with some of his bold and brash moves, Michaela Beretta, and then it's Sam McLeod occupying the next rows. Then it's Chang, Hyman, Nadal Jeffrey, Julio Moreno. Then it's Tatiana Calderon, Julio Moreno, having gone around a couple of times this morning. Matt Rao, Arjun Maini, Matt Solomon. Then it's Kong Lee and Alessio Lorandi for Van Amersfoort Racing, with Raghunathan and Alexander Albon then relegated to the back of the pack. Alongside me, top race engineer Adam Hardy, and the reason Alexander Albon has been put right to the back of the grid is because he didn't provide the 1 kilo that's necessary as a fuel sample, and that's, you know, that's mandatory, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So that's a bit of a mistake there from the team. They'll be disappointed with that. Obviously, you want to try and run the car as light as possible, but that's pushing it a bit too much. That's the point I was going to make, Adam. It's kind of a team's fault, isn't it, rather than a driver's fault? Okay. Alexander will obviously has pushed as hard as he possibly can, but you know, surely there must be tolerances and allowances made for how much fuel you are going to need across that session. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'd have had their plan for qualifying beforehand, so they'd have had their number of laps that they were going to do. Whether they did an extra lap and just tried to push it, whether he's on a quick one on his in lap or something like that, we don't quite know this full story there, but. Yeah, I mean that's really ruined this race for him. So he's having to start at the back. Yeah, what it has done for him, as you quite rightly say, is completely ruined it. And you know, he would have been brimming full of confidence following his P2 success from earlier. We look at Lance Stroll from Prema Power Team, and Lance Stroll then goes from P3 on the grid. And just before we came on the air, we were talking about teams, and everyone, of course, runs Dallara chassis. Some teams seem to have unlocked the magic button for this circuit. Some teams don't appear to have. Carlin is an example that don't seem to have been quite where and have the pace, for example, of Prema Power Team. And is it as simple for me to say that perhaps they've just not unlocked something? It certainly seems that way. I mean, a lot of the British teams would have raced here in 2009. So whether Carlin turned up with a package like that and thought it was going to work here, it could be that. And it's just they've not reacted quickly. And Prema are obviously really on it. They've done a bit more testing, I think, as well here. So obviously this track's not used that much. So they've done a very good job on getting on top of it, and quite clearly are the class act this weekend. It's looking a bit better now, though, for Antonio Giovinazzi. He's benefiting, of course, from the fact that Alexander Albon has been put back on the grid. That means everyone else, of course, moves forward 1 place. So Giovinazzi perhaps in a better position to try and bulk up some points for the championship going into this race, because he starts from P5 on the grid rather than from P6. He did finish in the points P9 in the race this morning, but Gustavo Menezes, good showing from Gustavo Menezes for this qualifying. There you can see Gustavo Menezes in the familiar Jagonia I Am colours. And Carlin suggesting that their cars have a very nervous rear end. Grip issues perhaps. And we were talking in the race this morning about tyre degradation, and in fairness, Jake Dennis said in the press conference that followed his victory from earlier that, benefiting of course by being in the lead and having a relatively comfortable margin, he was able to protect his tyres and conserve them a little bit over the later stages of the race. Well, of course, if you're in traffic, if you're in the turbulent air from the car in front and you're really pushing hard and being very aggressive, yeah, that's going to cause significant tyre wear, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And also from a setup point of view, if you think you're going to be racing a load of guys, then you're always going to lose front end. So maybe they opted for a slightly more oversteery setup, hoping that it will come good in traffic, and maybe they overstepped it a bit and it was just a bit too edgy. It was interesting to see how they get on in this one.
I think what we can't emphasise is the fact that these are such technical cars, aren't they? And you know, the teams are benefiting from the testing earlier this week as much as the drivers, because up until that point, with the exception, as you've mentioned, of perhaps when they were here with British F3, but no data for this place at all. So actually, during the course of the 3 races over the course of this weekend, they're still going to be learning, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they're going to have to turn up with a fairly good setup. Obviously, they've had the 2 days testing, so that helps them. But if you didn't really nail those 2 days, then you're into the deep end a bit, and you've got to sort your stuff out pretty quickly.
How easy is it, Adam, that you think you're going in the right direction, which turns out to be the wrong direction? You then have to correct everything that you've done. I mean, that's a big ask as well, isn't it? That if you've perhaps thought, you mentioned just a few moments ago, perhaps gone for a slightly oversteery setup, thinking it will come good in traffic, and if you have gone wrong, it's quite an effort to put that right again, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're just going to be. They'll have gone through a lot of the data, and so hopefully they'll have some solid conclusions from that. I mean, that will have been key after race 1 to really analyse the data, see where they are with setup. Yeah, but like when you're running on old tyres, then you put a new set on, then obviously the balance changes, and it's how you react to that. But it's very easy to go the wrong direction, and you've got to react very quickly to get it back.
Thanks, Adam Hardy, with us throughout the course of the race then, offering his engineering insight. Leah Gorman from themotorsportarchive.com is there, tapping away on the laptop as we speak to provide us all the information as the race goes on, and we're about to get the race underway. So the order then: Felix Rosenqvist, then it is Nick Cassidy, Lance Stroll, Jake Dennis, then it's Antonio Giovinazzi. Then we see Gustavo Menezes and George Russell occupying the first 5 rows of the grid. In the championship, Giovinazzi on 335.5 points. Rosenqvist on 328. Leclerc on 312.5. Interestingly, Leclerc starting further down the grid than he would like, behind Bacalacci and Fittipaldi and Palmer and George Russell as well. So the cars on the formation lap around this circuit then, the circuit that after just the first session of testing, it was decided track limits were going to be such an issue that they put the chicane in, so that chicane becomes turn 1A. So the 15-turn circuit is increased by an A, and the chicane at turn 1A, it was at turn 1 where most of the track limit issues were. That being said, there were still track limits issues during the course of the first race as well, and interestingly, warning flags were used, and once the warning flags had been used, drive-through penalties were issued, so the drivers know that it's being ruled with a rod of iron, and quite rightly so, and in fairness, it's exactly the way it should be. Everyone knows what the tolerances are, there are none, and you've got to keep it in the right place. So Felix Rosenqvist, then, having finished the first race, P3 today, will be hoping that from his pole position start he can bank some very important points in the final run into the championship final at Hockenheim, with just Nürburgring to come after this particular race weekend. Big grid as always of these fantastic cars, the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Of course, the very series that elevated young Max Verstappen straight into Formula 1, and he, of course, performing in Italy this weekend at the Monza circuit. As coming past our commentary booth, we can see Giovinazzi come past, and who was that went round that I missed?
I'm not sure exactly who it was, but
it was an induced spin by.
I think he just overdid it a bit. One car entered the pit lane. We're not sure if that's Sims, because he might be starting from pit lane.
Yes, absolutely, you're right. Yes, indeed, and that's exactly what he did in race 1. So it was one of the Mucca cars then. The most aggressive of the Mucca cars, I'm tempted to say it's Ferrucci, but it may not have been. So we will see.
They're very slow forming up on the grid as well. So some of the cars at the back of the grid having to come to a stop, so all going to be losing a bit of tyre temperature.
And of course, with such a big grid of cars, Adam, those that are on the front row, they have a long while to wait, don't they? It was Michele Beretta that went round.
Yeah. I think he managed to get it back in time, so he's not going to be starting from the grip at the back, so he's okay.
So the front rows then with time to wait before we get the green flag from the marshal at the rear and get this race underway. Race 2 of 3 across this weekend here at the Portimao circuit in the Algarve. There goes the green flag. The grid is set. The engine note rises. So does the anticipation. The start was a bit cluttered earlier today. Let's hope everyone gets it right this time around. And away we go. And racing George Russell making a move straight away. Dived out. But Felix Rosenqvist there, and you can see George Russell making a move. They've got very nearly 2 abreast at the back there as Jake Dennis tries to move up as well. Getting very, very crowded through that chicane now. A couple of the Carling cars run off the circuit. Tends to be allowed in the first lap around because it is very, very busy indeed. So Jake Dennis then to P2, Felix Rosenqvist. And Jake Dennis, of course, another one that's absolutely brimming with confidence following that success this morning. So Lance Stroll, P3, as they go around that turn 5 now. That's a real pinch point.
Yeah, Rosenqvist made a really good start. You can see the gap he's already got.
Yep.
So he looks like he's checking out. There's a lot of action in the background, though.
And there's always lots of action right at the very start, isn't there? Nick Cassidy, of course, with a far better. At least he has got away this time around. So Felix Rosenqvist then with a margin already. And Antonio Giovinazzi is the man that's really, really got to make up ground because, of course, he's nearest championship challenger. Felix Rosenqvist, as Adam has suggested, is trying to check out already. So, first lap of this race, there is Antonio Giovinazzi then in car number 3. The all-yellow colours of the Carlin Jaconia I Am sorted cars. Looking very, very racy indeed. There is Maximilian Günther. We saw some good stuff from Maximilian Günther earlier. Maximilian Günther doing a good job. Felix Rosenqvist P1, then it's Jake Dennis P2, then it's Lance Stroll and Nick Cassidy, then is P4 with Gustavo Meneses P5. George Russell is P6. George Russell coming under some pressure from Fittipaldi, though. There is George Russell on the left-hand side of your screen. Fittipaldi is the car right behind, but Fittipaldi is under pressure from Leclerc as well. Charles Leclerc, of course, he in the championship is P3, so he's another one that really, really needs to move up the order and make the very, very most of it. Not a brilliant qualifying for him, so he's got to do it all out there on the track with a lot of traffic to pass as well, and we've already seen that this is not a brilliant place for overtaking. As around goes Matt Rao in the Fortec car, and he's lost the front end of that car.
Yeah, he's going to try and make it back to the pit lane in time. You can see on the start-finish line, everyone's just ducking and diving, trying to break the toe, because obviously into turn 1, looks like we've got a safety car as well.
Yes, we have. Safety car is out now. Will that be for the... before the front end that we saw scattered across the track there, Adam? Surely that's the only reason we can think of. Here comes the safety car then to be deployed now. And, of course, what that does do, it kind of ruins it for Felix Rosenqvist, doesn't it? Who built up a margin of, what, 1 point, just under 2 seconds. Yeah, on lap 1. I mean, he got off the line well, and then he just kept it nice and tidy and managed to get a good clean lap, and yeah, he'll be devastated. There you can see that's the debris that's caused the safety car. So that is the reason then, and that sadly is the Matt Rao car, which is not going to be able to limp back to the pits then and get a new nose on. No, that's the end of his race, unfortunately. So the cars will all bunch up behind the safety car now, and when it's as cluttered as it is right at the very start, and of course it's going to become recluttered now as everyone bunches up behind the safety car. The first lap, second lap, third lap, when you're always running in that turbulent air from the car in front as well, that makes it very, very difficult too, doesn't it, Adam? Yeah, I mean, always. I mean, it probably, because you don't heat the tyres in Formula 3, so you've probably got 3 or 4 laps before the tyres are at their peak. Is it as many as that? Yeah, I would say so. So it'll take a while. So now the guys have to work quite hard to maintain temperature, yes. And obviously that'll affect your ride height and obviously the aero side. So let's start again here. Here's a replay of the start then, and it was certainly a better start than the one we had this morning. And Felix Rosenqvist just absolutely nailing it, but also nailing it was Jake Dennis. And that was a bold move by Jake Dennis to go to the outside there and just going around the outside. He remained absolutely committed to it, didn't he? And I suppose through that chicane, you've got to keep your foot in.
Yeah.
It sounds really base, but you've got to be absolutely committed, and Jake was, and it paid off, didn't it?
Yeah, really good move. I mean, it's easy to run wide there, and we saw in the GT race earlier that someone took advantage around the outside of turn 1 off 4 wheels off the track.
Yes.
And they got the drive through. So he did really well to keep all 4 wheels in, made a nice clean pass, and yeah, really impressive there.
Yeah, Jake Dennis doing a great job. Currently P2 as we continue to watch the replay of this start. Then as they head up now from turn 5 up towards turn 6, and a few of them running wide there as well. And there's another car off there that we'd not seen, and this looks like it's Arjun Maini. Raul Hyman out. So the West Tech driver Raul Hyman.
Yeah, so it looks like they've had a coming together, and that's we've got a message on the screen saying the incident with 14 and 38's under investigation. So presumably that's
Matt Rao.
Yeah, exactly. So we wondered how he lost his front wing, and it's probably to do with that.
Certainly wasn't Arjun Maini. I was looking at the timing screen at the time and could see Arjun Maini on that, who incidentally, Arjun Maini having the benefit of having Karen Chandok here over a couple of days to give him some support and assistance. He's now flown back to Monza, but Karen was here, and it was nice to have a conversation with him as we see, sadly, the car of Raul Hyman, the West Tech driver, being put on the low loader. So safety car continues to lead the cars away, and that means we lose that Raul Hyman car, and it's a great shame.
Yeah, you see the guys in 3 and 4, 4 and 5 just trying to weave, just trying to keep as much temperature, especially in the front tyres, as possible. They would really want to have the front end there when they can try and attack on the restart, and just trying to get the pressures up, get the ride heights more settled. That's obviously going to have a big effect on your aero. So they want to be trying to work that, and the brakes as well.
Has to be said, we've seen a number of safety cars in F3 this year, and what I've really studied and really enjoyed studying is the fact that how you can really get a safety car restart right if you're the front man, and how you can really get it wrong as well. Yeah. You know, it's down to Jake Dennis is going to have to really try and anticipate when Felix Rosenqvist is going to go, isn't he? And Felix, if he's got any sense when the safety car comes in, and Felix has a lot of sense, otherwise he wouldn't be where he is in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. You know, he'll back him up and back him up and back him up, won't he? And then he will floor it and go for it and try and catch everyone unawares.
Yeah. I mean, they'll probably turn the safety car lights off going into sector 3, obviously, and then
yes.
then the cars can pass on the safety car line just before pit lane. So they'll be trying to just set it all up nicely, and probably try and get the run through 15 as well. The last corner, that will be key to make sure that works. And
you can carry an awful lot of speed through turn 15, can't you? That's, you know, that is a heck of a corner here on this Portimao circuit. So once again, the FIA Formula 3 European Championship making its debut at this Algarve circuit then this weekend, instead of going off to Russia last weekend, which they didn't do. So safety car coming in this lap, so we'll keep an eye on that. We're expecting the lights to go out on the safety car, and indeed it has. So now it's the job of Felix Rosenqvist to back them all up. It's the job of Jake Dennis to try and anticipate when Felix Rosenqvist is going to really go for it, and so too Lance Stroll in P3 and Nick Cassidy in P4. The Racing Steps Foundation driver Jake Dennis then, who is in P2. It's Felix Rosenqvist that's leading this race at the moment, and he really is backing them up. He's jolly near come to an absolute stop.
Well, that's pretty extreme there. But,
look, I mean, it's hardly moving.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do that, to bring it that slow, but we'll have to see what the stewards say about that.
And that is...
I don't know if he's got a problem, you know, but... No, it looks like he's ready to go.
Right.
There he goes.
So, Felix Rosenqvist does get going. And to be fair, he's caught them all unawares, hasn't he? Because Jake Dennis was as well. Yeah,
totally. I mean, if that's allowed, I mean, that's a very impressive start. Here we go from a move.
So Rosenqvist leads from Dennis, Stroll. Then it's Cassidy, Menezes and Russell. But Menezes taking a look. And the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. They're more bunched up than ever before. Lance Stroll is managing to hold off at the moment. Gustavo Menezes in there. He's got past Nick Cassidy. Also trying to get past Nick Cassidy is Pietro Fittipaldi as well in the number 12 car that we see there as they run up now towards the downhill section, which will lead them into turn 5. This the restart following the safety car. So Rosenqvist leads from Jake Dennis. A few lockups there, and Pietro Fittipaldi there, and George Russell absolutely together. George Russell, the winner of the McLaren Autosport Award from last year, in with Trevor Carlin's squad in his FIA Formula 3 European Championship debut this year for George Russell. Had some success, and one to watch certainly is George Russell. There is Charles Leclerc then, who is chasing down George Russell right now. So 5 laps completed of the 20 of this race duration, and they're all sticking very, very much together. Now there is Giovinazzi, and it's Antonio Giovinazzi who really needs to move up the order as much as he possibly can, and already black and white flags being issued for disrespecting the track limits, those going out to Chang and also to Arjun Maini as well. So we'll keep an eye on that, because you're only going to get warned and then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, they're obviously a bit lenient on lap 1, but now it's now they're getting back to it and clamping down.
So Giovinazzi in P10. So going backwards for Antonio Giovinazzi, not what he needs to do. So it's Rosenqvist, Dennis, then it's Stroll, Menezes, then it's Nick Cassidy, Fittipaldi, George Russell is P7, then it's Leclerc, and Marcus Palmer is P9, Giovinazzi then P10, as we keep our eye on Gustavo Menezes in P4. Good show from Gustavo Menezes then, who's running in P4. There he is, really close up onto the back of Lance Stroll. So Menezes has moved up, and it's now Rosenqvist, Dennis and Stroll. And here once again is George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Of course, we've seen huge success from Leclerc during the course of the season. Seems to have gone off a little bit. Saw him in the paddock earlier, and he was wearing his normal fairly passion-free face, it has to be said. So clearly very seriously thinking about the course of the weekend, and so too is that man Felix Rosenqvist, who is untroubled and has built up a margin of 1.4 seconds already as the race just begins to settle down a little bit.
Yeah, so Rosenqvist's got purple sector 1, purple sector 2, so he's really making the most of this clean air. He's doing a great job at the minute. Yeah,
he's in that perfect position, isn't he? So Rosenqvist, Jake Dennis, Lance Stroll, Gustavo Menezes, then it's Cassidy, Fittipaldi, Russell, Leclerc, Marcus Palmer, Giovinazzi. And a confirmation of that on your screen right now as they come into turn 1. Moccolacci is P11. So Albon then has broken into the top 20 after starting very last place on the grid. So it's good showing from Alexander Albon. He knows, and when I spoke to him at lunchtime, he knew all his efforts, unfortunately, were probably going to be futile in terms of trying to get into the points. It would be a big, big ask indeed, but doing a good job, and still plenty of the race left to run.
Yeah, I mean, to set that time in qualifying, for sure, he's got pace. You know, 1 kilo we're talking about is not a significant amount of difference in lap time. No. So we know that he's got pace.
Alexander Albon is someone that really, really has shown some promise at times during the course of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship season, for sure. Also showing great promise is Felix Rosenqvist, who is right out there. Cassidy takes Menezes and goes, moves up. And of course Nick Cassidy, who is leading the Japanese F3 Championship at the moment, and is here in place of Brendan Maizano for Prema Power Team. And Nick Cassidy really just providing information for Prema Power Team during the course, but whilst he's out there, he wants to do the very best he can, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He's obviously a good guy. I remember he did some V8 supercar stuff in Australia as well, so he's a bit of a dabble. He can do a bit of everything, so he's obviously pretty handy. That's
also true of Alexander Sims, isn't it? Who's leading the British GT Championship at the moment, Adam?
Yeah, exactly. A BMW driver as well, so he's forged a really good career. Obviously, most guys in Formula 3 are looking for F1, but obviously GT is becoming a good option for them as well.
Giovinazzi then having got past Marcus Palmer, so Giovinazzi moving up the order, and by Jiminy, doesn't he need to? So just watching Alexander Albon there, who's really feisty, isn't he? I mean, he is chasing after Chang like there is absolutely no tomorrow. Look at that, throwing the car around everywhere. Alexander Albon has really got the bit between his teeth, hasn't he, trying to go up the order. Also, Santino Ferrucci, and we're not surprised by that at all, because Santino Ferrucci is one of the most aggressive drivers out there and will throw absolutely everything at it. And continues to do so. Big lock-up. But that doesn't seem to trouble him at all. And Mikkel Jensen on the inside there, the two K-Styler 24 Muka Motorsport coloured cars. And what have we got? Rosenqvist now. Just wondered whether he was increasing that, the way he's done a Sector 2 time is best of everyone, isn't it? So Rosenqvist is really very comfortable out there, Adam.
Yeah, even his Sector 1's 2/10 quicker as well, so he's just gapping it. I mean, he's controlling the pace nicely. We've seen a lot of track limits as well just on the TV feed, so we've got a slow information coming through. There's plenty of black and white warning flags now coming out for various different drivers. Yeah,
Matt Solomon and Callum Eilert both being warned about track limits, you're right.
Yeah, so once they've been issued the black and white flag, normally that's pretty much their last warning, so I expect we're probably going to get a few drive-throughs at some point. And to be honest, the whole field is there's a lot of battling still, and especially with this long straight, I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are looking to improve. And like we said, we've got Albon pushing coming from the back, so he's going to take a few more risks as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some. See, there was one for Felix Rosenqvist, so even he's still pushing.
George Russell has managed to get past and has won that place back that George Russell lost out to with Pietro Fittipaldi. And
certainly keeping the stewards busy, aren't they? Because this is getting... They're sort of taking the mick a bit now.
Yes. Well, drive-through penalty. First one is going to be issued, and that's being issued to Alessio Lorandi. So Lorandi gets a drive-through penalty. And
I think that's going to be the first of many, possibly.
What's really interesting here is Charles Leclerc is also being shown the black and white flag. He's running in P8 at the moment. Running P1, though, is that man. Felix Rosenqvist, that we see on screen, well, he's very nearly doing his shopping in Portimao now, isn't he? I mean, he is so far ahead. Look at this. Only now do we see the Jake Dennis and Lance Stroll car, and that of Nick Cassidy coming to the picture as well, with Gustavo Menezes in P5. So a brilliant job that Felix Rosenqvist is doing. And of course, whilst he's doing this, Antonio Giovinazzi only just in the points, P9. It's doing the world of good to Felix Rosenqvist's championship charge. So across the timing line goes the #1 car of Felix Rosenqvist, and margin now of 3.387. Then it's Jake Dennis, Lance Stroll. Then it's Nick Cassidy, Gustavo Menezes, George Russell. And then Fittipaldi, Leclerc, Giovinazzi and Marcus Pommer rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, the gap, the lead gap's just been increasing lap by lap, really. So now we're sat at nearly 3.4 seconds to Dennis, who actually put in a pretty good first 2 sectors on that lap. So he's obviously starting to come to him a bit. So we'll see if he can do anything about the gap.
So we're at the halfway stage in the race, and a race that was affected by a safety car very early on. 10 laps left to run for these Formula 3 cars here in Portimao. It's another big lock up there for the Maximilian Günther car. Maximilian Günther really pushing very hard and having to scrub that speed off as he goes into turn 5 by locking the front end. Now, to be fair, consistent locking up of that front end isn't going to do that tyre wear any good at all, is it, Adam?
No, it's just it's that unloaded front tyre that's causing the issue. But there's plenty of right-hand corners here, so if you lock in the left front always, it's going to potentially could induce more and more understeer, especially if you're battling the pack. It can make the whole thing a lot worse.
And what's really interesting, he appears to be the only one that's doing it.
Yeah. So whether he's got a bit too much front brake bias, or he's running quite a stiff front end, that's the other option. That could be happening. So yeah, he'll need to manage that. But if I was Rosenqvist's engineer, I'd certainly be telling him to mind the track limits, because he does not need to be taking any risks right now with this gap.
No, and in fairness, Adam, currently we have no messages to suggest that Rosenqvist is, it's something else that, and presumably it becomes easier to digress as the tyres wear more and more. It's harder to keep that car in check, isn't it? So just there as we watched him. To be fair, he ran quite wide, not quite as wide as Jake Dennis did, but nonetheless, you know, they are watching this constantly, aren't they? As the very, very lively Santino Ferrucci goes off the circuit then to have a go at Sergio Sette Camara, and that was really off the circuit.
Yeah, I think he might have to yield that place, or you know, that was a big cut across the chicane there, so he's definitely gained an advantage. Keep an eye on what he does there. And
Mikkel Jensen then, another one of those Muka Motorsport cars then that we can see. So Maximilian Günther then with a train of 8 cars just behind him. And Maximilian Günther continuing to battle there. Look at this. And this is the battle that is going on between Günther and Sette Camara, and it's all over P12. P1 though, Felix Rosenqvist, absolutely no mistake in that, with a margin of some 3.7 seconds over Jake Dennis in P2, and Lance Stroll, good showing from him, P3, and there is the Nick Cassidy car in P4.
Yeah, so the gap to the lead's just sort of stabilised now, so whether Rosenqvist just managing the pace nicely, not doing anything silly, obviously there's another Prema car behind him, so whether there'll be any orders there. Well,
to be fair, I mean, it's reinforcing what we said right at the start of the programme with regards to Prema Power Team having got this top 4 places.
Yeah, exactly. So I imagine there'll be some communications. You know, maybe there was something on the restart as well, but yeah, you'd be managing that situation quite carefully if you're team boss there.
So we see Rosenqvist go through. Here is Jake Dennis, and there Lance Stroll. Well, pleasingly, didn't appear to have had many more messages with regards to track limits at the moment. So, as out goes 2 Muka cars together there. So, trying to ascertain who it is that we think is out.
Is it Cassidy?
Possibly. Cassidy, of course, didn't finish the first race today.
Yeah, just looking on the timing screen, he's certainly not gone through the first sector, so it could be him in the gravel. Another safety car by the looks of it.
That's brought out another safety car. So,
he's just gone straight on, hasn't he?
Yes, you can see it. You can see the tracks, can't you?
Yeah.
And that's at turn 1.
Yeah. And interesting to see if there's anyone else involved in that. He was 9/10 behind across the start line, so it's probably a bit too big to be involved with someone, so we'll have to hopefully see a replay of that.
Yes, because as you say, he was on his own relatively, wasn't he?
Yeah, I would say so. But the front wing was tucked under. Whether that failed before, whether he hit the gravel and it folded it under, but certainly good to see another view of that to see exactly what happened.
Well called, because it was Nick Cassidy. You're absolutely right, Adam. So the second race that he won't finish. Rosenqvist, of course, this won't be his first victory at Portimao, because he won here last year in that FA1 championship. That's assuming all stays the same. So the car is going to be recovered from there. The safety car is out once again for the second time of asking in this second race of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And the order has changed now, because it means it's Felix Rosenqvist, Jake Dennis and Lance Stroll. Top 3 remain the same. Then we see Gustavo Menezes now is P4, George Russell P5. Pietro Fittipaldi is 6 with Leclerc up to P7. Plays into the hands a little bit of Antonio Giovinazzi, who now goes up to P8 with Marcus Palmer and Boccolacci P9 and P10. But sad to see Cassidy out once again, just as we were talking about the Prema Team dominance.
Yeah. I mean, he was doing a really good job. Like you say, he's a stand-in for this one, so that's a shame for him. Well, don't know exactly what happened there, but
you felt the wing was tucked under?
I saw it, but you don't know whether that was as he hit the gravel. But certainly the brakes were working, because it locked up the whole lot. So you hope it wasn't a throttle stuck open, or.
I mean, he was certainly untroubled, wasn't he? So this is how we pick it up.
Yeah, so we've missed it.
So he's in the gravel by the time we pick it up. So. But he's clearly locked on the tarmac. He's locked up.
You wouldn't think it's a brake failure looking at that, as you can see he's certainly been onto the brakes. But it'll be interesting to see now what Rosenqvist does on the restart as well, whether he does it. So we're in this lap, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Is he going to crawl once again?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's see how Felix Rosenqvist handles this restart from the safety car then. Safety car out because of Nick Cassidy off into the gravel.
Yeah, he's doing a similar sort of thing, isn't he? Backing him right up.
Yeah. So, for the second time of asking, Felix Rosenqvist is going to have to do it all over again, having built up such a phenomenal gap. Counts as nothing when it comes to the restart, of course, unless... I don't think he's quite as slow as he was, Adam, if I'm being honest with you.
No, no.
And there he goes, he floors it. Jake Dennis tries, and I think Jake Dennis does a better job of keeping with him this time.
Yeah, I think he learned from the first one, didn't he?
Yes, I think you're right.
So it'll be interesting to see who can get the run out of this last corner and see who can set the car up in front into turn one.
Well, Dennis is certainly closer than he was, but I don't think he's close enough. And Gustavo Menezes is under pressure from George Russell. George Russell to the outside of Gustavo Menezes and trying to dive up the inside is Fittipaldi, but they all as they were. George Russell really, really close to Gustavo Menezes then at the battle for P4. And there you can see George Russell really is all over the back of him, but George Russell in that position where he's hunting and being hunted as well by Fittipaldi, who is all right behind him. Behind Fittipaldi, of course, is the Leclerc car, and into the mix as well.
Some track limits there. We'll see if anything comes of that.
Yeah. Now this is, heaven sent opportunity for Giovinazzi to try and move further up the order, isn't it? Because he was running down there in P8. Well, it was P9, of course, but the safety car out means that it becomes P8. Gustavo Menezes then still holding his own at the moment, and Rosenqvist, Dennis and Stroll trying to get up the road. Just saw the number 12 car of Fittipaldi, and there is George Russell, who's now having to swap from attack to defence, isn't he? Because Pietro Fittipaldi from Fortec Motorsports is really piling the pressure on George Russell just ahead of him now.
Yeah, he looks pretty racy.
And that plays into the hands of Gustavo Menezes, who at the moment has not got to worry too much about that. But right at the back of that pack is going to be Giovinazzi as well. Now, if you're Antonio Giovinazzi, are you going to let them scrap and think, I'm just going to pick up the pieces here if it all should go awry, or are you going to attack really, really hard? Don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out with 6 laps to go, because he'll want to make his move pretty soon, and obviously while everything's bunched up, it's probably a prime opportunity to get that done. So we'll see what he can do. It'll be interesting to see who's managed their tyres best now, because obviously you've almost got a restart like that where everyone's close. Who's got the better tyres? And who can make it count, really push for the last few laps.
George was all over the back of Gustavo Menezes then, and
he's got him.
He has. That is so close now. Menezes runs off the road, and Pietro Fittipaldi tries to attack George Russell at the same time as well. And there is... It's
going to get caught out there.
Oh. Now, a couple of cars can run really, really wide on that uphill section there before they go downhill into turn 5, which, as I said, is a real pinch point here. You can't go 2 abreast through there. There's no question about that, as we can see it happening right now. We're down to just 7 minutes and a bit on the clock left, and we might go to time rather than to laps here, as Dorian Boccalacci then, and there is Antonio Giovinazzi as well, side by side now between George Russell and Gustavo Menezes. Menezes is the one that really, really is under pressure.
Yeah, Menezes has got a warning as well for moving direction more than once. So he's got the black and white flag, so he's going to have to really be careful now. He looks like he's struggling as well, because he's sort of the cork in the bottle at the moment. There's a big train behind him. Yeah,
that is a big train behind him. Also being warned is Santino Ferrucci. If I'm honest, I'm not surprised by that, because Ferrucci throws absolutely everything at it, and if anyone was going to disrespect the track limits, it will be him. So as they all come thundering through, then Rosenqvist has built up 1.3 seconds over Jake Dennis already. Then it's Lance Stroll, then it is Gustavo Menezes, but only just, because Menezes really under pressure from George Russell. George Russell is now weaving all over the back of Gustavo Menezes, as once again he tries to find a way through. Big lock up there.
It's Boccalacci, isn't it?
Yes.
No, he did well to save that.
That was a good save, wasn't it, to be truthful? Charles Leclerc then in that number 7 car, currently running in P7. And whichever way you look, there's Santino Ferrucci then. in that number 5 car. Mikkel Jensen in that mix as well. Maximilian Günther is involved as well. Another lock-up just going into that turn 5. Just saw at the back end of that shot. And we are reaching the closing stages of this race. And at the moment, to be fair, whatever problems Gustavo Menezes has got, he is able to seemingly withhold that pressure from George Russell at the moment, even though he is still that cork in the bottle because they're all stacked up behind him. But you've got to find a way past Adam, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And he's, I think he's getting it right in the important places. So he's getting good drive out of the corners. It doesn't matter if he stops it on the apex. As long as he gets that drive out, it makes it hard for the others to try and pass into the next corner. But you can see a lot of the midfield guys, they're squirming around, and what I've noticed is the track temperature's gone up a lot from the start of the race. So whether the teams didn't expect this high track temperature, because we had a little bit of rain in the air earlier,
yes,
so maybe some of them a bit high on tyre pressures, because you just see quite a few of them starting to squirm around a bit now.
Whilst you're talking about that, bad news for Antonio Giovinazzi as Boccolacci gets past him. So Giovinazzi goes down to P9 now. Boccolacci is P8. Here comes the order then on the screen for you. Rosenqvist leads from Jake Dennis and Lance Stroll, and those three really have opened up a huge advantage over Gustavo Menezes P4. Then it's George Russell still P5. Then it's Fittipaldi, Leclerc, and Giovinazzi and Mikkel Jensen. The top 10.
Yeah, the top 3 have nearly got a 6-second gap, so here we go, still loads of action going on here.
Santino Ferrucci is always going to be in the mix of it, isn't he? In there with Dorian Bacalacci as well. Absolutely brilliant to watch. Despite the 2 safety cars, we've seen some really quite dramatic racing here from the FIA Formula 3 Championship as well. And Alexander Albon is another one that's doing an incredible job. Look, he's up to P13 from the very, very back of the pack. Credit to that young man, doing a great job. What have we got left? 3 3/4 minutes, Adam. I'm just looking at Albon and how close he is to Ferrucci, Palmer, Boccolacci and Jensen. You would have never bet on, he would be this close to a points finish, would you?
No, I think Boccolacci looked like he either made a mistake or got hung out to dry there, because I think he lost a few places, including that to his teammates. So, yeah, I mean, that's a really impressive drive, because I think Albon's probably up to P12 now. And,
well, Rosenqvist is continuing to do a great job as he sets the fastest time of anyone through Sector 2 right now. And that's why he's got a margin of, last time around, of 1.4 seconds. So... Rosenqvist is doing a very, very good job, and he's had to do it through 2 times of asking now, as I expected the case. The laps have been dropped from the top of your screen, and we go to time, and we have 3 minutes left to run. 2 more laps in my book, I reckon.
But Jake Dennis has still got good pace. He's just set his best lap of the race as well, 42.3. So he was only 10th slower on that lap. But you can clearly see the Premier cars are really, really hooked up, and they're doing a really good job now.
Of course, this is good for Jake Dennis in the points championship as well. Boccolacci, a problem is going backwards, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because having gone past him now is a whole train of cars. So as we see battles going on, and they continue to go on right through until the very, very end of this race. That's for sure. So Boccolacci then dropped down to P18. That means Albon is up to P12, Palmer is P11, Ferrucci is P10 with 2 minutes left to run. This is the second of 3 FIA Formula 3 European Championship races across the course of this weekend. This race being led by this man, Felix Rosenqvist, who has not put a foot wrong in terms of having to do it twice from a restart as Callum Eilert, Carlin driver, manages to get that car going again, and this is how it happened. Now that...
Oh, he was helped, wasn't he?
Yeah. So there in replay, Callum Eilert going off. He did manage to get the car going again, but has lost a whole huge bunch of places in so doing. So Rosenqvist, Dennis, Stroll with under a minute and a half left to run.
Yeah, this should be the last lap,
I think this will be the last lap. Now, Dennis has taken some time out of Rosenqvist, but it's the final lap. Rosenqvist is just comfortable, and he's going to pace this perfectly, isn't he?
Yeah, he's looked completely in control, to be fair. I mean, Jake Dennis has done that on several occasions, just running wide on the exit of the chicane, and there's been no warning, so he's got away with it, I think, there. But his pace is good. He's got set green sectors in sector 1 and 2. Yeah, it's every lap he's doing that, and there's been no more warning, so I'm a bit surprised by that.
Well, as we see in replay, and slow-mo replay at that, proving the point. So Rosenqvist, Dennis, Stroll, Menezes, Russell, Fittipaldi, Leclerc, Giovinazzi P8, Mikkel Jensen P9, and Santino Ferrucci P10. On the final lap then of Felix Rosenqvist's two safety car affected race, but he has not looked troubled once. In fact, the only trouble that we felt might have been the case would be just how slow he was on the first restart from the safety car. But again, there's been no warnings about that, so we can only assume that that's absolutely fine. He's got just turn 15 to go through, and then he will head towards the checkered flag. It's another dominant win for Felix Rosenqvist as he heads towards the checkered flag now. Felix Rosenqvist takes the win. Jake Dennis, P2. Then it's Lance Stroll, a good showing from Lance Stroll, that takes P3 before we have time to appreciate the fact that Gustavo Menezes did manage to hold off George Russell to take P4. Fittipaldi was P6, Russell a 5. Then it was Leclerc, Giovinazzi, Mikkel Jensen and Santino Ferrucci P10. Pommer P11, but what a drive from Alexander Albon, right from the very back of the pack to get up to P12. I don't think he thought even he was capable of doing that at the start of this race. So there we are, the FIA Formula 3 European Championship Race 2 done and dusted. We should also mention Alexander Sims, shouldn't we? P15.
Yeah, that's a very good drive. He started from the pit lane, we think, and yeah, he's done very well as well.
So the points, this means it's going to be Giovinazzi, Rosenqvist, Leclerc, Dennis. Now,
I think it's going to be Rosenqvist takes the lead now, doesn't he?
He's got to, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So we're doing the calculations now. Yeah, Rosenqvist is going to be on 353. Giovinazzi is going to be on 339.5. Then it will be Leclerc, and Jake Dennis is getting ever closer. Lee and I said right at the start of race 1 that, you know, some very good finishes from Jake Dennis between now and the end of the season could see him vault up that championship table. So Felix Rosenqvist goes back to the top of the points following that victory as we watch his car make its way back to the pit lane. And there, confirmation of the result. Felix Rosenqvist taking the win from Jake Dennis P2. Then it's Lance Stroll, then it's Gustavo Menezes, George Russell, Pietro Fittipaldi P6, Charles Leclerc P7, Antonio Giovinazzi P8, Mikkel Jensen P9. Good drive from Santino Ferrucci to take P10. Then it's Marcus Pommer, and perhaps the drive of the day ought to go the way of Alexander Albon from the back of the pack to get up to P12. Then it's Sergio Sette Camara, Maximilian Gunter, Alexander Sims, good drive from him too. From the pit lane, Dorian Boccolacci, P16. Then it's Sam McLeod. Then it's Chang and Moreno and Beretta rounding out the second page of the results screen. Then it's Ryan Tvita, Kong and Raghunathan, Matt Solomon, Arjun Maini, Callum Isla, Alessio Lorandi, Nick Casti, Matt Rao and Raoul Hyman, all not having the race that they would have liked. Nor too Nabil Jeffrey and Tatiana Calderon. So you're absolutely right. The weather conditions changed dramatically during the course of the race, didn't they? The temperature, you know, really increased. It was quite cloudy. The sun has broken out now, Adam, and I wonder if that actually did catch them out. Maybe.
Yeah, I think some of the guys in the midfield, certainly you could see them squirming around, and obviously when you're battling as well, you're using up those tyres. But certainly if your pressures were a bit too high, because it has got quite a bit hotter now. But I mean, they'll gain valuable information for the race 3 as well, so they'll be able to learn from that. There's certainly no problems there with the Prema guys. And
that race comes up tomorrow, and fairly early on, around lunchtime, the race is on the air tomorrow, or on track tomorrow. Gets underway at, well, just ahead of lunchtime, to be honest. It's local time, 11:05 tomorrow. Felix Rosenqvist then, well, that was a jump for joy from the Prema Power Team driver, the Racing Steps Foundation driver there, Jake Dennis, that we can see. Also, big difference between the height of those two and Lance Stroll. And here come the highlights then of what was an eventful race. The start was certainly much better this time than the first time of asking. I still think that was one of the moves of the race by Jake Dennis, Adam. Yeah,
very important as well, getting it off the line really well, and then just hanging it out around the outside, and then you got the inside for the rest of the chicane there.
Really gutsy drive and really gutsy overtake from Jake Dennis then, and well, behind there was so much action going on, it was difficult to ascertain who was doing what and where, to be truthful. The one person that was doing the best job possible, though, was Felix Rosenqvist, because while all these battles were going on behind, he was able to get up the road. One of those to have an off straight away was that of Matt Rao. And that brought out the safety car and virtually a standstill from Felix Rosenqvist on the restart. And you can see just how frustrated Jake Dennis was at that point. He's nearly running into the back of him as they round turn 15 to start the race again. Sadly, it wasn't going to be the only safety car we saw during the course of the race either, but the racing that came between the safety cars was fraught and fractious at times. And George Russell and Pietro Fittipaldi having an almost race-long battle. That was the demise, sadly, of Nick Cassidy, which would bring out the second safety car. And from the second safety car restart, again, Felix Rosenqvist was able to back them all up and was going to be untroubled by having to start from safety car once again. So as they made their way uphill, some went off track, some stayed on it. There were several lockups, but that was the most dramatic of them all going into turn 5. But Felix Rosenqvist was trouble-free and was going to take the checkered flag for yet another win in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Jake Dennis P2 and Lance Stroll takes his second podium of the season. As we see Christoph Heaver there on camera as two podiums as always in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, the race overall, and then of course the rookie podium as well, which is why you can see George Russell hanging around up there and Felix Rosenqvist being congratulated by Hankook. And a good drive from Felix Rosenqvist. Something that I'm really interested in, and I labour the point a bit, Adam, is the fact that, and you'll see it on the podium, you know, Felix Rosenqvist is 5'0", and Jake Dennis is 6' something. You know, it's incredible the difference between them, and actually that has an effect in terms of car setup and driving, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, the tall guy's obviously going to have to manage his weight a bit more. Weight's always critical in this formula, so you certainly, if you're a big guy, then you have to work hard to match the weight of the other guys, because you'll be able to move the ballast around in the car, and that'll have an effect on your setup. So yeah, normally, like you say, with like Mark Webber as well, some of they're quite often tall, but they're very skinny. They're very lean guys, and they've got to really keep on top of that.
And go back in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, Raffaele Marciello is another one that's you know, got some height, hasn't he? But let's get on with this podium now. As to the top step goes Felix Rosenqvist. And here comes Jake Dennis. Now, he'll be the same height as Rosenqvist, even though he'll be a step lower, if you see what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Look, you could put a ruler on the heads of those two at spirit level almost, couldn't you? And there's Lance Stroll. Good drive from Lance Stroll to take P3. And Prema Power Team once again back up on the podium. Very dominant performance. So we await the national anthem for Felix Rosenqvist. And it will be the overall race podium celebrations first of all. So Felix Rosenqvist, the anthem plays out, the Hankook baseball caps go back on, and they await the trophies being presented right now. really very, very impressive, good, big, large trophies here at Portimao. I'm really impressed with those. That one's nearly as big as Rosenqvist himself. So Rosenqvist takes his trophy. Next up it should be Prima Power Team that get theirs. Of a similar size, it has to be said. Stand by, Jake Dennis. Yours is on its way. Looks pretty happy with his achievements, and he is going to be one to watch, I think, as we run into the end of the championship this year. And Lance Stroll takes his too. So they'll all pose for photographs, then the race will be on to see who can break open the bubbly first. My money's on Dennis. We'll see. And there you can really see the difference between Jake Dennis and Felix Rosenqvist in terms of their height. So Prima Power Team then proving to be very, very successful here. Well, I was wrong, wasn't I? I think it was Rosenqvist that just got it. I think he just pipped it
pretty well as well, didn't he?
Well, he certainly ended up getting absolutely showered, didn't he? Excellent. Well, now it is the job of Christoph Heaver then to sort the podium out for the rookie podium.
I mean, Prem has had a really good day, hasn't it? Locking out 5 of the 6 possible podium places.
It's incredible.
So that's
it's
a
absolutely
really, really
incredible.
strong day.
Rennie Rossin is going to be pretty happy with his team's performance, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, that's for sure. So as we take that image of the podium being prepared then for the rookies to appear on it, reminder to you that we have another race for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship to come tomorrow before we head off to the Nürburgring, and then it is Hockenheim for the season finale. So Lance Stroll goes to the top step of the podium in the rookie podium. Very cash George Russell makes his way to the second step. So the podium, so once again we stand by, national anthem to play out now for Lance Stroll. So just before we see this podium ceremony, the tally for Felix Rosenqvist goes to 8 wins now as Lance Stroll receives his trophy for being best rookie. That will be George Russell and Pietro Fittipaldi, the other 2 drivers up there on the rookie podium. So the second of the 3 races for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship done and dusted. We're seeing the second of the podiums. It's always 1 podium for the race overall, and then the rookie podium as well. Please join us for race 2, which comes up tomorrow. Race 3 tomorrow. My thanks to Adam Hardy for his support, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.